My name is Walid Mukarzel.
My name's Lueda Zain. No such thing as a typical week.
I think my dream job, if I wasn't working for P&G, would be...
Welcome to Meet the Leaders. I'm Katie Mills, and I'm getting to know a little better some of the senior members of our team at P&G Northern Europe. So let's welcome my guest today.
Hi, I'm Ian Morley, he, him. Today I've got a pink shirt on, I've got my glasses on. What little hair I've got is quite short. Unfortunately, I'm not standing up, so you can't see I'm also quite short as well.
So tell me a bit about yourself. What brought you to P&G?
So I have, I think, the best job in the world. I'm the Vice President of Sales here in the UK. I have a slightly different career background because I've actually worked in other places. But I sneaked in the side door here about 16 years ago when it was my lucky day when P&G bought Gillette. I probably never would have been able to come in via the front door, but I was lucky enough when P&G purchased Gillette back in 2005. In 2006, I came here as one of the first people to come across. And actually, it's been an incredible experience because despite being more than halfway through my career at that stage, it made no difference that I sneaked in the side door because I was treated as an equal from day one. And actually, I've probably had faster progression here than I had outside of P&G. Look, the sneaking in the side door bit's a little bit tongue-in-cheek. Clearly, I didn't, but it kind of makes a passing reference to the fact that I would not have had the level of academic qualifications to get through the front door. So I was kind of given a second chance. It also proved that anyone can come to P&G and P&G give the room for people from whatever background the opportunity and space to be successful.
You've had a long and successful career at P&G so far. What keeps you here?
Yeah, what keeps me here? I mean, that's one of the most consistently asked questions I get, definitely when I'm recruiting people. And there's some pretty predictable answers, which perhaps I won't talk at length about. So everyone will always say it's about the people. Let's just take that as a given. And I'm not going to elaborate on that further. What I would say, what's kept me here is P&G's ability to continue to allow me to be me, to be successful my way, and to grow through different assignments in an environment which is always changing, always unpredictable, and I'm always kept on my toes. I've been in the consumer goods industry for 33 odd years, so there needs to be a why. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. And there's probably two aspects of that. Aspect one is, from the first day I did this work to what I do now, there's one thing that's consistent. The feeling when you win and when the plan comes together. And in my world, that would be from the first time as a young sales rep, I went and sold some in a store, and the feeling you got when you walked out of that store was just fantastic. And that stays with me today in a different context, maybe coming out of a head office. That feeling still stays with me. And it is fantastic. The second why would be I get enormous satisfaction from watching and helping people be the best that they can be. There's nothing more fulfilling than seeing people develop and improve. And it's always a magical day when you sit down with an individual and tell them that you've seen that progression and development. And on some occasions, you know, it's deeply fulfilling seeing someone down and saying, congratulations, you've been promoted to the next level. Well done for all of your hard work. The second why has probably become bigger than the first one over time, because I know how important that is in the business model of us being successful in the long run.
What's the best thing about P&G that you would tell someone considering joining the company?
I think a career in consumer goods at P&G, if I was speaking to young people, I would say it just provides that unparalleled learning opportunities. Quite regularly, I talk to graduates that we've hired, and I talk to them, 6 months, 12 months in. And there's two things that I consistently hear when I speak to them. The one is, it's like, I've learned more here in 6 months than I learned 3 years on a university course. It's like a mini MBA, and I hear that consistently. And the other thing I really like it when I hear, and it's heartwarming when I do, is when graduates we've hired say, actually, versus my peer group set, I'm being looked after more, I'm being cared for more, I'm learning more, and I have a more rewarding career than my peer group that have chosen other industries where they're not treated in the same way as we treat people.
I'm sure you'd agree there's not really a typical day at P&G. Can you tell me what you've been up to this week?
Yeah, I don't recognise the word typical day, but let's talk about some of the things that that I would get up to. I mean, broadly, my time is split 50-50. So half of my time I'm engaging with our customers and senior leaders at customers one way or another. Out of pandemic, obviously, that means I'm now back out actually meeting retailers. I split myself between our different sites in the UK, so I spend time in Harrogate. The other half of my time is spent on our talent, our people, obviously working anywhere from recruiting to training to developing to managing careers and the organization. And of course, I'm a massive believer that the time and energy that we put into developing our talent into future leaders is a business strategy in its own right. It's a growth engine within its own right.
What do you do when you're not in the office?
Outside of work, a few passions. Last couple of years, quite a lot of exercise. So I walk or run 5 miles on average every single day of the week, including this year, started to walk to and from work. I like getting in the kitchen, doing a bit of cooking, like showing off and cooking nice stuff. Watching a bit of football and following my football team. But all of that is eclipsed by the time I spend with my family. I've got 2 young daughters aged 8 and 10. And they quite rightfully and with a lot of enjoyment take up a big amount of my spare time.
So learning from failure is key to future success. Can you share an example from your career with us?
I get a bit jittery if I can't think of anything that I've failed at, because if I've not failed at something, that probably means I'm not trying new things, I'm not experimenting, I'm not pushing the envelope in terms of what's possible. So, measured failure is definitely a good thing. And here I am in my 30-something year of working, and I still fail. And I proudly say I fail on a regular basis. A specific example, gosh, I can remember how, when I was working here in about 2010, 2011, I was running the Gillette business then, and I was the hero because we launched these big blade packs, and people will know about them now because they're part of our everyday business. And they were just an enormous success. However, what we didn't do was keep count. And by that is, if you keep filling people's houses with a lot of blades, there come a moment where your business becomes slightly overloaded. And it was a great ride up in terms of how well we did, but I didn't account for the fact that the business was going to slow down after you've done this. And we had a massive correction and started missing our numbers in a very big way, which was actually quite material for the business. And that taught me a lot about always be paranoid, even when things are going well, and have the right control mechanisms to keep tabs on why your business is doing well and what do you do about the inevitable corner, the blind corner that's ahead of you.
Having a growth mindset is critical. How would you define it, and what do you do to keep yourself in this mindset?
I mean, growth mindset is very in, isn't it, as a expression? I'd like to think I've always had a growth mindset before we even called it a growth mindset. What does that mean to me? Being relentlessly positive about how you can influence outcomes, not just for yourself, but for the wider group that you're managing. Having the self-belief that you can change outcomes, but critically instilling that self-belief into those around you, that by trying different things, being relentlessly positive, you are able to create different outcomes with that mentality. And that way of thinking has been with me throughout my career, even before we called it growth mindset.
So, if you weren't working for P&G, what would be your dream job?
The answer to what would my dream job be is really simple. I know exactly what I would be. I'd be a barrister. I'm a bit of a show off. I like performing to an audience. I like questioning. The thought of standing up at the Old Bailey as a barrister, even in a wig and gown, would be hugely entertaining. Not quite sure how good I'd be at the studying element to get there, but that's probably what I'd be.
Is there one thing about the company you would like to change?
What I've learned since I've been here, and it's counterintuitive from the day you walk up to the big glass building with the big blue logo, the big corporate P&G, you think you can't change anything at P&G. But the reality is, and what I've learned is, it's in your power to change stuff here, and you can. So we've talked a bit about my non-conventional background. What I've learned in my time here is our ability to embark upon projects which widen our diversity footprint. So we bring in different people from different socioeconomic different types of backgrounds. And the ideas me and others have had in that space, we've actually been able to do it. So my point is, you want to change anything about P&G, good ideas are never turned down. Come up with well thought out strategies, and people just want to say yes to them and give them a go.
So, you're the lead sponsor for our social mobility work. What made you want to take that role, and how do you approach this strategy moving forwards?
P&G is undoubtedly an incredibly successful company. I came here in 2006, and I was inspired by the people that came from fantastic academic, really bright people, fantastic academic backgrounds. That was not the background that I came from. I didn't go to university. I was undiagnosed dyslexic when I was 17 years old, and I had to learn in a different way. But I didn't see a lot of people here that had come in via different routes. And that spurred me on to think there's got to be some great people out there that have had different types of upbringing than our typical candidates. So what that's allowed us to do is to do a variety of different recruitment techniques to widen our diversity footprint, anywhere from focusing on digital recruitment, which goes to all campuses, be it the more traditional red brick to just general universities. From, one of my proudest moments, being able to sponsor a team that came to me with the ideas that said, let's bring some apprentices in, working with secondary schools in South London and now actually around in Surrey, running internship programs, as we're going to be doing next week, which is offering people the opportunity to have an internship, again, from a wider socioeconomic base, has just been fantastic to both do those pieces of activity, but also look at the team of apprentices that we brought in this year and see what they've actually delivered, but critically how they've developed themselves. I've got a lot of hope for the future with some of the strategies we're bringing about, as well as, of course, continuing to recruit, strong, highly qualified, high academic achievers from traditional universities as well.
Where do you turn to for your inspiration? Any top tips for websites, books, or podcasts?
I try and keep myself really up to date with what's happening on the retail scene. I read Sunday papers extensively, read online. I'm fascinated by business models and the different business models that make businesses tick. I'm a big fan of knowing our competition inside out, so I'm a regular listener to analyst calls of what our CEOs of our rival companies have to say, how they're operating, their strengths and weaknesses, and I look for opportunities that might exist for us after, listening to what they've got to say.
What would you like your professional legacy to be?
I think legacies are really important, and I'm really clear what my legacy should be. And in fact, what I think most people's P&G legacy should be. My legacy should and will never be my business results. They're done and they're in the past. My legacy has to be the quality of the organization that we all leave behind, that we've recruited well, we've trained well, and created a fantastic succession that will, survive in P&G for many, many years to come, that will keep this fantastic business going in the same direction of travel that it has at the moment, which is incredibly successful.
What's the most important thing you've learned over your career?
I think it's quite hard to distill down to, one thing that, I've learned in my career, because I've learned so much. But if you force me to pick one, it would probably link to having the kind of longevity of career, and that's the need to look after yourself. And that can fall into a number of different camps. But predominantly, it's about looking after your mental and physical being. I've learned along the journey of the need to look out for the warning signs of when you're finding it tough and taking the appropriate action. Learning that none of us are infallible. All of us are vulnerable, and all of us need to recognize the signs of when we're finding it tough, and do something about it. And then once you've learnt that, look for that in others. So as a leader, how are you keeping your eyes on an organization to make sure that they're staying mentally and physically fit as well? Of course, a big part of that is to ensure you know the boundaries between work and outside work, and creating, I talk about red lines of those moments in your life where you do step away from work and have time out. If I was ever guilty of anything earlier on in my career, was perhaps not doing enough of that, but I now know where those red lines are and I stick to them. They're better for my mental health, my physical health, and probably my family as well.
So P&G have been around for over 185 years. What do you think is the secret of the company's longevity?
Yeah, the 180 plus years, the secret to that longevity, I think it's a predictable answer, to be honest with you, but it's the only answer that exists. And it's the people. If you hire, develop, nurture the right quality of people, you'll always have a business model that you can execute. It all starts with the people. It's a strategy within its own right. And having looked and other businesses, other business models, talked to other people outside of the industry, by a country mile, It's what sets us apart from our competition, and it's what allows us to have superior results.
So what does Force for Growth and Force for Good mean to you, and how do you bring this mission to life in your everyday work?
A force for growth and a force for good, what that means to me is I'm lucky enough that P&G provides me with all the tools I need to deliver the sources of growth on our business. It's a fantastic machine. It knows how to grow categories. So it's a flywheel that just keeps on turning. I do have personal strategies to be force for good as well. I'm a big believer in giving back to the communities that we're in. And it's for that reasons, I do a couple of things. I'm a board member and a trustee of an industry charity, which I spend quite a bit of time with. By the way, I've developed myself as a result of doing that. And then the second thing I did was a few years ago, as I got involved with a secondary school locally, where I've been a governor of that secondary school, not because my children are there, to try and help them. And again, because of my links into recruiting and education, it's actually taught me a whole load. So hopefully I've helped them, but actually it's been of benefit to P&G as well.
Thank you for watching this episode. To watch the full series, go to pg.co.uk, or to find out more about careers at P&G, visit pgcareers.com.